All right, thank you for your patience. I think we're going to get started. Just so you know, this is info session is being recorded and it will be posted next week. So thank you for everybody that has joined and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. This session is all about our group room selection for the 2026-2027 academic year, what the process looks like, what steps you will need to take, and what to expect along the way. By the end of this presentation, our goal is to make you feel clear, prepared, and confident about participating as part of a group. The speakers today will be myself, and my colleague Justin will be running through the presentation. We also have our colleagues Mia, Lorena, Katie, Christina, along with members from Rolo available to help answer your questions in the chat. Let's go over the agenda real quick. Today's agenda presentation is going to be about 20-minute long. We'll start with an introduction to groups and review how groups point value is calculated. Then we'll talk about how groups are formed and the difference between group leader and group members. Next, we'll share insights to prepare you for your appointment and go over what to expect when it's time to select. At the end, we'll open the floor for Q&A. Now let's move on to about room selection. We're so excited that you've joined us today because it means you're practically thinking about participating in room selection as part of a group, and that's a really smart selection strategy. Before you join a group, there's a few things you should consider. What is a group? First, a refresher on groups. Groups consist on 2 to 10 students who want to select their housing together during one appointment time. There are no gender restrictions, so male and female students can be in the same group. However, groups only have students from adjacent classes, meaning rising seniors cannot form groups with rising sophomores. Why form a group? As we said earlier, groups are a smart selection strategy because they allow you to access more of our inventory. While both individuals and groups can select into corridor singles, groups can select Groups can select into corridor doubles and apartments as long as all beds in the spaces are filled. There are actually some buildings, like Hogan or Woodbridge, that are only available to groups because they only configured as apartments. Groups are also more flexible. Depending on available inventory, they can split up across rooms, floors, and even buildings. How to split groups. To help you visualize group split up, we created this example group of 6. Let's say that they go into room selection, hoping to find an apartment that can fit all 6 members. By the start of their appointment, no 6-person apartments remain, so they need to split up. This example illustrates how you can divide across buildings to suit the needs and preferences. 2 go into Watt double, 2 going into a 600 West 113 double, and 2 go into singles in McBain and Carlton Arms. So here's what to consider. Part of the strategy behind forming groups includes thinking carefully about who you want to live with. It's not just about optimizing your group for a specific building. It's about setting yourself up for a good residential experience. So while it's fun to live with your friends, it's best to choose a roommate whose living preference align with your own. One of the most disagreements we see among roommates is about cleanliness and expectations, about maintaining shared spaces. If having a clean room is important to you, pick someone who also values a tidy space. Sleep habits are also really important. If you like to sleep until noon, pick someone who's a night owl like you. You are more likely to have a good experience if you prioritize alignment of living spaces, preferences. And if you're thinking about living with someone with an adjacent class, it is also important to understand their point value will impact your selection. We'll talk more about this later in the presentation. Now let's hit some discussion prompts. Here's how you can put those considerations into practice. These discussion prompts are a great place to start if you and a friend are thinking about rooming together. I recommend you grab your phone and take a picture or take a screenshot of the slide you can use for reference later on. Make sure you talk about what expectations you have about cleanliness and division of chores. Come to an agreement about how you handle conflict and what you consider most important in your living space. By setting the expectation early, you can avoid conflict later. group and point value. And this is where I'm going to pass it on to Justin.
All right, thank you, Charlie. So we're going through a lot of things, and what we're going to do is kind of break it down for you into a couple different areas. So as part of your group strategy, you want to think about the size of your group and the composition of it. When we say composition, we mean which classes make up the group, like all rising sophomores or a mix of rising juniors, seniors, etc. So let's kind of talk about the golden rule for groups. To select into a space, you must fill the spaces. There can be no vacancies within an apartment or a double. So, for example, this means that a group of seven cannot select into an eight-person apartment because there would be an empty bed. You only have seven people with eight spaces. Or a group of three cannot select into two-quarter doubles because one double would have an empty bed. There's one caveat to this rule, which is our suite style buildings. So 600 West 113th, also known as Nuss, and Carlton Arms. These suites are so big they cannot be filled by a group of 10. For that reason, your group doesn't need to fill the entire suite. It's just as long as there are no half-empty doubles. Now, let's talk about your group size. We're often asked, what is the ideal group size? And the honest answer is that there is no one single ideal size. It's really going to depend on your individual living and building preferences. For example, if you really want to live in Ruggles, you'll need to be in a group of at least four because the smallest apartment in the building is a four-person apartment. So when you form a group, you should think not only about how you'll mesh as roommates with everyone in the group, but also make sure that you're considering the building preferences too. There are other pros and cons to consider with group size. Bigger groups have more options because they can fill larger apartments or could split up into smaller configurations. But a bigger group also requires more coordination, planning, and communication amongst the group. So just remember, a group size, though, does not increase the point value. A group of two seniors and a group of 10 seniors both have a point value of 40. Group composition matters more than group size, and being in an even numbered group can give you an advantage. So let's kind of talk about why even numbered groups have an advantage. When all corridor singles are gone, even numbered groups can select into corridor doubles. This allows you to pick your own roommate and to choose into a building of your preference based on what's available. So again, according to our golden rule for groups, an odd numbered group wouldn't be able to fill all the bed spaces in doubles, and so they wouldn't be able to select rooms and finish the process. Instead, they'd be placed on the guaranteed assignment list and assigned a room over the summer. This is especially important for rising juniors and rising sophomores because there's a very good chance you will end up in a double. Our portfolio is also better suited to even numbered groups. 7 out of 10 spaces in our portfolio have an even number of beds. Now, let's talk about point values and lottery numbers. If you attended any of our previous info sessions, if you attended the Rising Junior Senior, I apologize that you're seeing me again and hearing me speak again, but this slide's going to look very familiar. We just want to make sure that you understand how individual and group point values relate to lottery numbers and selection times. So just again, each student receives a point value based on their class year. So Rising Seniors 40 points, Rising Juniors 30, and Rising Sophomores 20. The point value is going to tell you the range in which you can expect your lottery number to fall. Then the lottery number determines how early you select within that range. Lottery numbers are assigned randomly within that range to ensure fairness because many individual students and groups have the same point value. Here's another way to think about that distinction with the Lion King, since we are the lions. Point value tells us your seniority, essentially when it will be your class's turn to select. So as you can see here, rising seniors being the most senior will be kind of like the grown-up Simba, right? And have an earlier lottery number. Lottery numbers, again, tell you within your class when you select. So our rising senior groups who have the highest point value get those first pick lottery numbers. After they select, then we get to the mixed point groups, which are made up of rising seniors and rising juniors. Then the process continues based on seniority, with the younger Simba in the rising junior group, then that band selecting, and then down to the rising sophomore group. Now, let's talk about the group point value. As a group, you'll receive 1 point value and one lottery number. Group point value is the average of each individual group member's point value. So if your group is made up of entirely one class, like the example on the right-hand side, your group's point value will be the same as your individual value. This group can expect their lottery number to fall in the range for rising juniors because, as you can see, all four members are rising juniors, thus the average point value being a 30. In mixed point groups, meaning groups made of students from adjacent classes, the group point value requires a little more math. In the example on the left, we have a two-person group with one senior and one junior, which means their average or their group point value is going to be a 35. They'll select after the rising seniors, but before the rising juniors. This is why group composition matters more than group size. Now, everyone has an equal chance of getting a favorable lottery number within their designated range. We're going to kind of say that over and over because lottery numbers are computer generated, completely random, and fair within each point value range. If you are a group of 2, 6, or 10, you all have the same chance to pick first or last within your class. When do I get my lottery number? It's a great question. The answer is March 24th. For rising sophomores, this won't be a new thing for you, but for rising juniors and rising seniors, we are releasing both the lottery number and appointment time on the same date this year at the same time. Groups, again, receive only one lottery number and one appointment time, and it will be emailed to you and available for view in the portal on March 24th. Now, let's talk a little bit about the group formation process. Let's talk a little bit about the mechanics of group formation and talk about how to start or join a group in the portal. First, about the group leader. Every group has a group leader and they play a very important role. Group leader is the only member of the group who can access the portal during the group's appointment time. They are responsible for assigning each group member to a room, and the role automatically defaults to the person who forms the group, but that role can be reassigned at any time. Choosing your group leader, make sure to do it thoughtfully. It's very important because they have a lot of power and a lot of responsibility. Your peers who previously participated in groups really recommended choosing someone who's organized, responsible, and a great communicator. In other words, just make sure you pick someone who's reliable and trustworthy, that has great communication skills with everyone in the group. Now, let's kind of talk about the timeline a little bit. The group leader isn't the only one with responsibilities. Group members must also complete certain activities. During registration, everyone must sign their own statement of intent because this step tells us that you plan to participate in room selection. For the rising juniors and seniors in the room, be aware that the statement of intent now comes before the group formation. That's a little bit of a change we made this year. Now, during registration, this is also when the group leader will form the group. Then, each member will join the group and the group leader will verify the group. This is important because verification tells us that your group is all set. You're not expecting any more members to join, and this is the size of the group and the point value of the group. Now, all of these actions must be completed by March 6th. This is a hard deadline. Please do not think you have March 7th, March 8th to try to get this done because everything will close in the portal on March 6th. After this date, you'll want to spend time preparing for your appointment. We'll talk tips and strategy in a couple slides, but essentially use this time to make a plan together. Because during the group's appointment time, the group leader will assign each member of the group to a specific room. So once the assignments are made, everyone, including the leader, must sign their occupancy agreement. All of these actions take place in the housing portal and can be found within the room selection application. So what does it look like in the portal? Let's take a look at a couple screenshots over the next few slides. After you sign your statement of intent, you're going to land on the group formation page. This is for everyone. If you wish to participate in as an individual, you're just going to hit save and continue to move on to the registration summary page. If you wish to create a group, then this is where the group leader is going to click the button on the left-hand side to hit create group. On the right-hand side, you're going to see the button for join group, and we're going to talk about that in a second. After the leader clicks create group, they're going to see this prompt. This is where they're going to put their group name in and create a group password. Just two things to note. One, if you create a really long group name or a really long password, it can create issues when you're trying to share that with the group. So always try to keep it simple. Naturally, create a secure password, but always try to keep it simple since you're going to be sharing it with multiple people. Then, after you create the group, once everyone has joined the group, you've shared that information with your group members, you're going to see on the left-hand side down here, very important, this is where you verify. because you will not have a confirmed group size, a confirmed group point value until you click this button. And it's very important that you do this and move on to the registration summary page. Now, what does it look like if you're a group member? Well, once your group leader shares the group name and password with you, you're going to enter that information here and then just hit join group, and that's it. You will then be a member of the group, and it's up to the group leader to verify. Now, the final step for everyone involved, both the group leader and the group member, is to go back into the portal after the group is verified to proceed to the room selection registration summary. This is a very important page for you because this is where you're going to get your lottery number, your appointment time, and is the final step in the room selection registration process. Now, let's kind of talk about the room selection registration checklist. Again, this is kind of a summary of everything we've been talking about, but uh, as Charlie mentioned earlier, this is a great image to screenshot or take a photo of just to make sure everyone completes this process. Everyone must sign their statement of intent. No statement of intent means no participation in room selection. Someone has to create the group and everyone must then join the group. The group leader is selected by the group to do this and again can reassign the role if necessary. Um, and then the group leader must verify the group. Lastly, once the group leader has verified the group, everyone must log in and proceed to the registration summary page. Now, let's talk a little bit about your appointment. You've now completed registration, but let's start preparing you for your appointment and make a selection plan. Communication is a key to a successful group experience. We've heard this time and again from students in previous years. So that we've created another list of discussion prompts to help your group talk about priorities, preferences, and kind of those what if scenarios, as well as to establish expectations about how you'll communicate, manage conflict, make decisions. Please do not let room selection break up your squad. Use the time before your appointment to have those hard conversations and talk about what you want for next year. It's especially important for rising juniors and sophomores to decide how you want to pair up into doubles if no singles are available. Answering this question now means less stress during the appointment and less conflict after. What else can you do? Use the residence hall directory. The first place to start is to explore our residence hall directory. It can be accessed through the main navigation menu of our website under Explore Residences, and it has three filters, which can be used to narrow our portfolio based on your group's composition, needs, and preferences, such as typical residence, group size, and housing style. Typical residence can help you understand historical building composition based on data from last year's selection. You can also use it to get a sense of which buildings have previously housed your class and what might be a realistic building to prioritize in your plans. So, rising sophomores, please do not have East Campus as your top choice. This is where that typical residence will really come in and help out. You can use the group size filter to find a building that can accommodate your entire group in one apartment. So if you're a group of 6 students that want to live together in a 6-person apartment, you should apply the 6-person group size in that filter. This will then only show buildings that offer apartments with 6 beds in them. But remember, groups can also split up. So you can look at all filters for group sizes smaller than yours to see which buildings can accommodate. Um, Also, finally, use the housing style filter to choose a specific type of building based on the layout, corridor, suites, or apartment. Now, let's talk a little bit about group living options. Because groups have, it's okay. Because groups have the flexibility to divide, they could find themselves living in any of our three styles. So just to break it down really quick, corridor style buildings offer single or double rooms along a hallway and amenities that are shared among the building. Groups can select into quarter style buildings as long as they can fill all beds in the rooms they select. So let's kind of look at a group of three really quick. They can choose one quarter double and one single, but if there are only doubles available, again, they can't choose a corridor building because one double room would be half empty and they can't fill all the beds. Our portfolio also has two suite style buildings, Carlton Arms and 600 West 113th, also known as NUS. On a floor plan, these buildings look a lot like apartments. Bedrooms are clustered around bathrooms, kitchens, and living spaces within the suite. However, RAs can access all the amenities within the suite, which means there is less privacy compared to an apartment. It's also important to note that groups do not need to fill every single room within these suites to select them, just the beds within the rooms. Now, also, both buildings have suites with more than 10 beds, so they're also too big for a single group. Lastly, apartments offer the greatest level of privacy. To select into them, groups must fill every single bed within the apartment, and RAs cannot access the amenities of the suite. These are of the apartment. These are private apartments specifically for the group to select into. Now, let's talk about the building pages. Each building has its own page on our website to help you learn more. Look at the fast facts section to understand top line items for the building, like whether or not you need to be part of a group to select into it and how bathrooms are cleaned. Look at the room selection data to see which students selected into the building last year. You can also see building details and amenities sections to make sure the building offers what you're looking for. Things like air conditioning and communal spaces within the building. Lastly, look at the floor plans to make a list of the specific rooms within a building that you want to select into. This is most helpful if you're particular about where your room is relative to building amenities like proximity to the elevator or room that faces a particular street or avenue. This is all things that we've heard feedback from students, which is why we want to make it available to you. Now, also, let's talk about the helpful planning resources that we have. Some of the other resources that we have is an anonymous list of all lottery numbers and appointment times, which is published on our website on March 24th. This document can be used to see how many groups and individuals come before you. Also, on March 26th, we open a live viewer of the selection portal so you can see which rooms are still available before your appointment. You'll be able to find links to these resources on our websites once they're live, and they're very helpful. Uh, the next item we have for you, the room selection portal demo. It's a great resource for everyone, and we highly recommend it. The demo mimics the selection process and experience so you can get a real feel for the portal before your appointment. This is especially important for group leaders and individuals because it gives them a chance to practice navigating the portal and selecting rooms. Our data from our room selection survey showed that students who used the portal demo had an overall better experience than those who did not. The demo mode this year will be more available than it was last year. It'll be available starting on spring break and on the weekends during room selection. Now, let's kind of talk about the room selection appointment checklist. Like earlier with our previous checklist, feel free to screenshot this or take a photo of it, just to make sure that all these things are getting knocked out by the group. So at this point, your appointment time is likely approaching. So just use this to confirm everyone is prepared. Remember, it is about the group leaders and the group members working together. Make sure that your group leader is available during your group's appointment. If not, you can reassign the leader role to someone else. Have a plan for how the group will divide into pairs if you have to choose into double rooms. Remember to pick a roommate based on living preferences and habits, not just friendships. Create a list of the buildings and even the specific rooms you want to choose. The later your appointment time, the more options you should have on the list. This list will serve as a reference for the group leader so that they're not scrambling in the event that the group's top choice is no longer available. Lastly, the group leader should explore the demo. This gives them a chance to get comfortable with the portal so there are fewer surprises during the appointment. Now, let's talk about the final step of this process, which is your actual appointment time. So then, just to remind you, only the group leader can select a room. They are the only member that can log into the portal and enter the room selection process. They will also be the one to assign each member of the group to a room. This is why we stressed how important it is to choose a reliable person as your group leader, as well as a great communicator. Appointment times are unique, meaning only one appointment time is assigned to each individual or each group. Basically, one lottery number equals one appointment time. There's no time limit to your appointment. Now, with that, there's a chance that people with an earlier appointment time who maybe didn't pick as quickly are still in the portal. So there may be some people, multiple people in there at the same time, but that's only because they missed their appointment time or didn't complete within their window. So just wanted to make sure that's on your radar for if you're in the portal and suddenly your room's not available. Now, what happens if we can't select? Inventory in the residence halls fluctuates depending on class sizes and registrations for housing. This means that some groups may not be able to immediately choose a room during room selection. If no rooms are available during your appointment, you'll be automatically added to the guaranteed assignment list. You'll have an opportunity to submit building preferences and we'll assign you to a room over the summer, which is typically in July. We try to keep groups together as much as possible, but we cannot guarantee the group will all be placed in the same building. Remember, you are guaranteed housing and you will receive a room assignment. That's the biggest thing to remember about this. However, the best way to avoid the guaranteed assignment list is to form an even-numbered group. This is because even-numbered groups can select into quarter doubles, and these rooms are typically the last available during selection. Now, let's talk about the final step. I know I've been talking a lot, but this is one of the most important things we're going to talk about. It's your occupancy agreement. You must sign your occupancy agreement because your assignment isn't finalized until you do so. This is something that each group member, including the leader, must do for themselves. The occupancy agreement becomes available once your group leader has selected and assigned the rooms. Please complete this step. If you don't, you may be putting your room assignment at risk. Now, I'm going to pass it back to Charlie for some FAQs.
Thank you, Justin. Before we open up the floor for Q&As, let's review some of the frequently asked questions. How can I learn more? Our website is a wealth of information, and we even have a room selection page dedicated to groups. You can find the page at housing.columbia.edu/group selection. It includes tips, best practices, videos, step-by-step instructions, FAQs, and so much more. If at any point you're feeling unsure about something group selection related, that page is the first place you should look for answers. I also recommend that you follow us on Instagram. We post lots of tips and FAQs to help demystify the process. But most importantly, always read your emails. We send reminders when actions are required, when deadlines are approaching, and also links to helpful resources. How can I optimize my group size? Our best tip for a group is to form an even number group. As we mentioned earlier, our portfolio skews towards even number apartments and rooms. Being in an even number group gives you more access to our portfolio, which means you have a better chance of selecting a room during your appointment. Another tip for optimizing your group size is to choose a size based on your building preferences. If you really want to live in a corridor style building, you don't need to be in a big group. You only need to be in a group of two. Conversely, if you really want to live in a Hogan apartment, you'll need at least a group of four. And remember, a bigger group doesn't mean a better lottery number. Does my group need to fill all beds in a room? Yes, absolutely. Your group must fill all the beds in a room to select that room. We say that rooms can't be half empty, which means you can't choose just one bed in a double room. If the room has two beds, you have to fill both beds to select it. For apartments, your groups must fill the entire apartment. This means all beds in all rooms. In suite style buildings, which are Carlton Arms and 600 West 113th Street, you do not need to fill every single bedroom in the suite as long as you fill in all the beds in the rooms you've chosen. Do we need to assign all group members to a bed? Again, yes. Your group leader will not be able to submit the assignments unless every member of the group has been given a bed. This also means that one person from the group can't be added to the guarantee assignment list so that the other members can be assigned into doubles. Can you explain why odd number groups are riskier? Our portfolio has a limited number of singles, rooms, and odd number suites. In addition, you cannot have empty double rooms. So if you're in an odd number group and there are no more odd number suites or corridor style singles, you will not be able to select rooms. Being in an odd number group, especially as a rising junior or sophomore, increases your risk of going into the guarantee assignments list. So now for some time for some Q&A. That concludes our presentation, but please put your questions in the chat.
Yeah, please feel free to submit your questions. Sorry, that's what I was trying to think. Please feel free to submit your questions so that we can answer them for you, and we'll dive into them. Yeah, I can take this one. Absolutely. Once the group leader confirms the group size, can we add or receive more people? Yes. The group size can continue to change. The makeup of the group can continue to change. Just two really important things to note. The first is that the group must be verified and finalized before the deadline on March 6th. So we see this every year where a group is created and verified on day one, and then there are changes made as we move through the registration period. That's totally fine. The most important thing to remember is the deadline on March 6th. The second thing to remember is the makeup of the group. While you can have mixed point groups, you cannot have both a rising senior and a rising sophomore in the same group. Mixed point groups must be comprised of those in adjacent classes. Let's see. We got another question here. So you can only change group size through March 6th. That is correct, because during the registration period, you are able to make as many changes as you want to your group. You can change the name, you can delete it, you can create a new one. But on March 6th at the deadline, that's when the group has to be finalized because that's when we need the group sizes and we need to know the point value of the group so that we can then assign people to bands. Next question. Will this presentation recording be released after the webinar? Yes, 100%. This is recorded and we are going to release it as soon as it's ready, which will probably be early to mid next week. Here's the next question. Can you please repeat the difference between suite and apartment style housing? It's great. For our rising juniors and seniors, this is a little bit different. For our rising sophomores, this is kind of the new way we're referring to them. Uh, Previously, we used to refer to like an East Campus room as a suite. We're now referring to them as apartments because of the privacy afforded to those spaces. So a suite in 600, for example, has amenity spaces that RAs are able to access. So it looks like an apartment on the floor plan, but the RA is able through rounds to access the kitchen and the public areas within that suite. An apartment, on the other hand, is like a Hogan, a Ruggles. It's a small group of rooms that have a kitchen, a living area that the RA is unable to access. So that is the big difference between a suite and an apartment. All right. Do y'all have any other questions for us? I just want to make sure that anything that's in your mind that you're unsure about, please feel free to submit it because we're here and we're more than happy to help answer your question. Um, Here's a question. Do we look at the floor plans on the housing website for the number that can go in suites or apartments? Will there be singles within those dedicated to RAs? Yes, always feel free to reference the floor plans. And like I talked about earlier in the presentation, we also have a great resource where you can filter buildings by, the apartment size, the number of people that can go into a particular space, whether it's corridor or apartment style. But always feel comfortable referencing the floor plan so you can see specifically where rooms are. So, for example, if you really want to be in Broadway, this way you know which rooms are maybe furthest from the elevator, closest to the elevator, where the restrooms are in the building. You can just be attuned to the amenities you're looking for and your location within the building. And yes, on the floor plans, we do identify the singles that are dedicated to RAs. And there was another question that came in. The question was, can a guy and a girl dorm together in a double? Yes, we have what's called co-ed housing, which means that when you form your group, it can have however many members of different gender identities, and they are all able to live together. There are no kind of rules around that. As you know, we will have Broadway sixth floor as an all-female identity floor in our portfolio, but that will, I believe, be the only one. I may be misspeaking. But you do not have to be the same gender identity to house together. One question that came in, can I be in a group and have a single room? Yes, you can be in a group of 10, and if everyone says we all want corridor singles in Shapiro, then all 10 people can get a corridor single in Shapiro. It's just that all 10 people must have a bed, must be able to be assigned to a bed in order to complete the process. Another question that came in during room selection, can you see who has taken certain rooms or suites, apartments before you choose? Absolutely. That's what the live viewer is there for. It is a live, it, what am I trying to say? It's a website with a live look at our portfolio. So there's no kind of 5 minute delay. The moment a student selects a room and completes the process, it's no longer available on the live viewer. So it is a really great resource to be able to help you with your list that you've already selected to see what's no longer available as you get closer to your selection time. Someone asked really quick, will you be able to see the names? No, this is an anonymous list. It's anonymous for, just kind of natural reasons. And but what we wanted to do though is make sure that everyone understood, if you have an eye on the 7-person suites at 47 Claremont and you want to see how many people may be able to select into them before you, that's what this list helps you with, so that you understand it just helps you have a better picture of what inventory is available for your group size as you get closer to your appointment time. Let's see. Question that came in, when will the room assignment simulator be available and where can we access it? That will be March 16th is when it will go live this year, and it will be via the room selection application. You don't have to go anywhere special to try to find it. We'll notify students that it is available, and you just go back into the room selection application and select that you wish to participate in the demo mode. And like we discussed, it is a very true replication of what you experience in the portal. Just naturally, the rooms that are in the demo mode don't necessarily mirror what's going to be in room selection. Uh, let's see. In Carlton and Nuss, if you select within a suite and don't fill all the beds, is it possible to have a mixed sex suite? Yes, it is. It is. It's entirely possible in Carlton and 600 West 113th or Nuss to have multiple gender identities within the same suite. So that is entirely possible. All right. I know we've gotten through a lot of questions. I just want to put one more call out for any remaining questions that you may have, maybe questions that haven't been asked yet, just so that we can just help you out and give you as much information as we can heading into the room selection period. Our goal has always been to just kind of demystify the process, make it simple for you, um, because we know that class is going on at the same time as all of this, which is why we just try to make it as easy as possible. So question, where can we find today's slides? Like we said, we're going to post the uh, recording of this session on the housing website, and you can find our resources there as well. When is the deadline to register with a group? March 6th. March 6th, the deadline is 5 p.m. Do not miss it because on that Monday is when we start finalizing everything for room selection. So please don't miss it. Naturally, if you have questions at all during the registration period, you are more than welcome to reach out, but please do not miss that deadline. Uh, Someone just asked, is that the same deadline as the intent for housing? Yes, it is. We try to make it really easy, not have multiple deadlines. So it is the same deadline for everything to be completed. So you can start your application on day one, sign the statement of intent, but then it may take you a couple days to complete the group formation process of getting the group all in the portal, getting the group verified. Um, but everything must be completed by March 6th at 5 p.m. Okay, I see my colleague Charlie has that question. Um, and I think, yeah, I'm not seeing any more questions coming in. So, on behalf of housing, I guess on behalf of my colleague Charlie, jokes aside, we just want to thank you for your time with us today, for asking your questions, for being present. We know that this is just a lot of information to take in, but we do genuinely appreciate you joining us. And of course, if you ever have questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to us. So, thank you all very much.
With that being said, have a great weekend.